supporting you in your dog parenting journey. The Dynamic Dog Owner with Debbie Potter. Hello and welcome to the Dynamic Dog Owner. I hope you are well and having a lovely week. Today we're going to be looking at some of the most common questions we get asked when people have a new puppy and they're looking to start puppy training. This may not be relevant to you, but it may be relevant if you're thinking about getting a second dog or a third or fourth. But equally, if you think it could be beneficial to a family member or someone looking at getting a puppy, please do share the link with them to make sure that they have this information ready. So I say, whether you're an old hand, you've had a dog before, or whether you are a first-time puppy parent, one of the first things we start thinking about when we get a puppy is, when do I start puppy training classes? Do I need puppy training classes? So the first question we often get asked is, what age should my puppy start classes? Now, obviously, this is talking from my experiences and my opinions, so you may find other information that conflicts it, and obviously you do your research fully. But in most places, most classes will say a puppy is anything up to 5, 6, or even a year old. They will accept puppies into puppy training class. In my opinion, it's best to start your puppy training class as early as you possibly can, because there's a few reasons. You want to get the input from your training school as early as possible. Ideally, before they even come home, you want to start doing your research. And a good puppy training class or offering will provide support before puppy comes home, before you start class, during class, and also afterwards. I would always say that you want to give your puppy at least a week or 10 days to actually settle in from them arriving from their breeder into your home before you start classes. A week, ideally, because it takes them 3 or 4 days to actually get used to their new environment and get used to being on their own without their litter mates and start to build that connection with you. So we want to make sure they're feeling safe and secure where they are before we start adding in new things. So a week for me is kind of like the perfect opportunity. Most puppy classes will provide loads of opportunities for puppies, not just about teaching them how to sit and how to recall, but a good class will provide opportunities for them to build their confidence, to expose them to new things and those essential skills that kind of get them started. And puppies generally at 13 weeks-ish start to enter into periods where they are a little bit less receptive of new things. So the more experiences and exposure to, in a positive way, to things before that period when they are very, very young, gives them a really nice boost and a bank of positive experiences to take them forward in their next few months. So for me, as soon as possible. A lot of people will wait until 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, 30 weeks. And it's not to say that's wrong, absolutely not. You start puppy class as soon as you can, but if you can, start earlier. A lot of people will wait and see if they need puppy training, and then you're basically waiting for it to go wrong and start to struggle, then join a puppy class, and then you're almost undoing bad habits. Whereas if you start puppy class when your puppy is 9, 10, 11 weeks old, you've got that support from the group, from your trainer, from the community that you're in, to give you that support and guidance straight away, so that you're not waiting for things to go wrong and then trying to fix them. You're carrying on being proactive as much as you possibly can be. And it's normal, it's common for families and puppies to, find those first few weeks a little bit challenging and start having concerns and feeling a lack of confidence. If you start your class as soon as possible, you've got that support in place to guide you in those first few weeks and overcome problems as quickly as possible. And I say, a lot of, not many, but a few places do provide pre-puppy class learning, so that you've got those sort of simple basics of, how do I toilet train from the day your puppy comes home, rather than waiting until they're 13, 14 weeks old and having to undo anything you've already done. So my answer is as soon as possible. The next question we often get asked is more of a statement question. I can't join puppy class until this age because my puppy hasn't had all their vaccinations. Now, every puppy class provider will be different, and it depends on their, where they're training, what their rules are, etc. So it's worth checking this out. But a lot of classes will actually welcome puppies into their training before they have completed their vaccination program. And I say it depends on various factors. It depends again on who you talk to as to what viewpoint they are looking at this from. But the earlier puppies get out in the world in a sort of most safe way possible in terms of precautions in terms of infections, etc., the earlier their exposure to environment and socialization begins, and you can't get those first years or weeks back. So the earlier they're out and about, the better. The earlier you're getting support, the better. But there are some things to take into consideration. So for example, training venue. If a venue is indoors, there are obviously going to be less risk of environment, for example. If it's a private indoor space, if it's a shared space, so for example, a puppy training school versus a vet surgery or a pet shop where you've got lots of different people coming in and out. Obviously, the more people that are coming in and out, the more risk of infection, because there are, you don't know who's coming into the space before you, after you, etc. So cleaning has to be quite high, especially if it's near a vet's, because obviously naturally that's where ill dogs potentially go. And it's believed that, infections are passed through wheeze and poos of unwell dogs. So if you're going somewhere that's public and we don't know who's been there, then naturally we don't know what our puppy is coming into contact with. On the flip side, a lot of people believe that puppies have natural immunity from their mum that lasts them a good few weeks, that kind of overlaps with that vaccination program. So yes, their vaccination may not be complete, but they still have the immunity from their mum. And obviously some people choose not to actually vaccinate at all and follow a more natural approach. So not everybody even chooses to vaccinate. So if you're in a public venue, say for example your training class happens in a public park, we have no idea who is in that space. If you're training in a private space, a private training venue, or a private indoor space where it can be fully cleaned, or we know that the dogs entering into the environment are well, fit and healthy and not got anything contagious, you're minimizing the risk of cross-infection. Obviously, we can never eradicate it altogether, but you're managing a risk. And the risk is always, do I keep my puppy inside, home, and not exposing to the world for the first month where they're missing crucial socialization opportunity? Or do I take a very sensible approach, minimize the risk, but get them out and about in the world seeing things? Personally, I tend to have 2 or 3 days where my puppy stays at home, and then from that day onwards, they're out and about with me. I take them most places with me in a puppy sling or in a puppy pram. Yes, it feels silly walking around with that, but it gets puppy out and about. And then from 9 weeks, I normally have them in puppy class. Again, I know that the risks are minimal, so I'm quite happy with that. And then as soon as they've had that second vaccination, which for me, I try to get as early as possible, it's normally about 11 weeks, they're out and about walking around in public, because I want to get them out and about and experiencing the world as quickly as possible. Obviously, this is an absolute personal preference, but don't think that you have to wait until your puppy is fully vaccinated, 12, 13, 14 weeks old before coming to class. It's always worth checking first, because you could potentially miss out on starting earlier and getting that support that you may be desperate for before you tear your hair out, basically. So the next question that we often get asked is, well, what do we actually learn in puppy class? And, will my puppy be well trained at the end of it? So puppy classes are designed to provide, or a good puppy class, not all, but let's put that out there. Not all puppy classes are of the same quality and of the same sort of aim. So this is, again, my opinion. So a puppy class should provide you with a safe, relaxed, supportive, nurturing environment for puppies and their humans to gain skills and confidence in what they're doing. And it's basically them having the best, most positive experience in those early few months to give them a good start in life. So that is exposure to sounds, sights, smells, objects, for owners to gain support and to have that supportive network and someone to go, hey, am I doing this right? To help you gain confidence in those first few weeks. People running puppy classes should be experienced and they should be qualified in some form of training qualification. Obviously, look back at a previous podcast episode where we talk about what to look for in a trainer, but they should be knowing what they're talking about. A brand new trainer who is only qualified last week probably needs a bit more experience before they're running puppy classes, because a puppy trainer needs to be able to provide you with support and answers to a variety of questions, and always have a plan B or plan C if your puppy doesn't follow that textbook explanation of how they should do something. For me, in my opinion, a good puppy class is not about training obedience. I hate the word obedience, but I've never found another word to describe what I mean. So it's not about teaching your dog to sit, to wait, to behave, to do as they're told. It's about learning how to create a happy, content puppy, a confident family, building strong connections that start a really positive life together. Obviously, you're likely to cover a variety of basic skills like recall, walking nicely on the lead, learning to relax around other dogs, learning to ignore people, how to interact politely, some simple activities to develop self-confidence and body confidence. But generally, a puppy class is actually designed to increase humans' knowledge rather than just making a puppy behave. And yes, of course, you're not going to have a perfect puppy in 6 weeks because that doesn't happen. So the next question we often get asked is, can I bring my children to puppy class? Now, the majority of classes will welcome all the family to training, and obviously it's a family event. It should be. It's a family animal. It's a family, part of the family, and all the family absolutely should be welcome. But it's worth considering a few things to help you decide whether you want to take your children into class with you. And obviously it's very individual to the people, to the family. I say your puppy is a new member of the family. Everyone wants to be involved. But when you're at puppy class, do you want to be spending your time worrying about your children behaving, your children winding the puppy up, your children being disruptive, you focusing your energy on your children more than your puppy? Or do you want to concentrate on what your trainer is saying and getting good foundations into your puppy? So I'm not saying that children aren't welcome by any means, but think about why you're going to puppy class and what you're hoping to gain from it, and whether your children are going to enjoy it. Because some kids, yeah, absolutely, they want to get full on involved in the training. Others don't really. And obviously I'm saying this as a dog trainer. My kids couldn't give a monkeys about dog training. When they were a little bit younger, maybe a little bit, but now they're like, no, why would I want to come train the dog? We cuddle it on the sofa, but other than that, it's your job. They aren't interested in the slightest. One day, hopefully they will be. But obviously you need to consider your individual children. Will they want to come? And that obviously may be that you think about the age of your children. Younger children are likely to need a little bit of extra adult supervision to help them listen and not distract people. They're likely to ask questions, etc. So we always suggest having 2 adults if you can. One that can focus on the puppy and one can focus on the children, so that everyone's enjoying it, everyone's there, everyone's present, but they're all able to enjoy the experience and get what you need from it. And again, obviously, attention span, and this is so dependent on your kids. Obviously, I know for mine, both have ADHD and autism. So one of them has a attention span of a gnat and would be completely bored out of her brain at puppy classes. And we're like, can we go home now? So there'd be no point in bringing her. My other daughter would actually really enjoy it. So are your children going to get bored, restless? Are they going to be fed up and want to go home? Are they going to take your attention away from the class? And it's not about being, obviously, element of it is being about disruptive to other people, but it's more about, you want to get the most out of this for you and your puppy. So we always talk about setting puppies up for success, but we also need to set ourselves and our children up for success too. There's no point entering into a situation if we know it's not going to work out well. And I say the other point is interest, which I've kind of touched on already, but does your child actually have an interest in training and wanting to take part? It's nothing worse than someone booking a class for a teenager to come to and the teenager going, are you serious? I don't want to be here. Because then obviously it's not going to go well. And And obviously distractions. There are so many distractions in class for you and your puppy anyway. Other people, other dogs. Your puppy is likely to be super distracted. Do your children create even more of a distraction for your puppy? Because most puppies like to, I would say victimize, that seems a bit intense, but the youngest member of the family, the youngest child, tends to be the one the puppy kind of is wildest with, in my experience. Because naturally they're a bit more excitable, they're a bit more boisterous, they're a bit more bouncy, and puppies go, wow, you're fun. So are your children likely to make your puppy find it much harder to concentrate? And obviously for this, there is absolutely no right or wrong answer. It's so unique to the individual and the family. You know, we've had 3-year-olds that have come to class and absolutely loved it and been amazing. We've had 13-year-olds that have loved class and, you know, are brilliant. Equally, we've had 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 16-year-olds who don't want to be here. It is so individual to you and your family. But just consider, you know, how old are they? Are they going to want to do it? Will they have the attention span? Are they going to distract you or your puppy? Is it better for you to come and learn and then practice at home, or are they going to come and embrace it? And it's completely up to you. And if you have any questions or any doubts, ask your trainer, because they should be able to talk you through it. Like, for example, I know for people who ask us, I say, week 1, don't bring your kids, it's boring. And then I have to kind of backtrack and go, sorry, it's not boring, it's really valuable. But for children, week 1 of puppy class is boring because we talk a lot, and we settle everybody in, and that is a lot of talking. Whereas week 2, I know we're doing a lot more hands-on stuff. Bring your kids on week 2 because you're going to have more fun. They're going to enjoy it more. So if you talk to your trainer about it, they're likely to say something like that and say, don't come on this week. But if you bring them on this week, they're going to have more fun. And then you and your family are getting the most out of it. You can talk through any concerns with your trainer, and then both of you, know what to expect, and they can make sure that everyone's going to enjoy it, and your puppies and you are going to get the most from your class, because you are investing, for a good puppy class, you're investing a good amount of money into your training, and you want to get value for your money. And sometimes that is about making sure you can give the training all of your attention. So brings us on to the next question quite nicely. How much do puppy classes cost? I mean, how long's a piece of string? There are so many factors that are going to influence how much a puppy class costs. And they can vary from something like £5 a lesson to £20, £30, £40 a lesson. And obviously, naturally, people want a bargain. But a bargain is not necessarily going to be the cheapest class. So it is best not just to look for the cheapest, but to look at each individual option and see what each one includes. Wherefore, what's the best value for money, but also what type of training school are they? So there are a few things to consider, purely because this is a question we get asked a lot, because I'm not going to lie, we're not cheap. But this is a question I have to justify quite often. So things to consider when you're looking for prices of a puppy class. First of all, location. So where are they located in the country? Are you in an expensive part of the country? Are you in a cheaper cost of living part of the country? That's going to make an important factor. But equally, location in terms of where does the class actually take place? So is it in a village hall that is hired by the hour, which is quite expensive? Is it in the trainer's back garden, super cheap? Is it in a purposeful training facility, super expensive? Because naturally they're going to have different overheads to running their business. And that kind of carries on for loads of different things, which we'll talk about in a minute. But also look at the length of the course. Is it a 5-week puppy class? Is it an 8-week puppy class? Because if you're just looking for puppy class and you book it without checking that out, obviously that's going to affect how much value you're getting for your money. Class size. How many puppies are in the class? So I have known of people have 15 puppies in a puppy class. 15 is crazy. We have a maximum of 6, very, very, very occasionally, over the summer months when we know we have got the big field and it's unlikely to rain. We go to 7, but we tend to have, we know over the summer, again, people are going to have a week off for holidays, whatever. So maximum I've ever gone to in a puppy class is 7. Normally it's 6. If there's 4, it's even better, because we get to give you individual support. We get to know you all. Your puppy is going to obviously benefit from it more. But from a cost perspective, if there's 15 people in a class, naturally the trainer can charge less because they're getting more bums on seats in that hour. If it's more exclusive and you've only got 4 or 5 or 6 puppies, then naturally it's going to be a little bit more expensive because you're getting a better service, you're getting more support. So what else is included in your class? Is it just the 6 weeks of training, or is there other stuff included? Because again, if you just look on the face of the price, you might go, cool, that's really expensive. But actually, it may offer a hell of a lot more than the cheap one that's been being advertised, but you just haven't read into the information. So for example, I know our puppy class is not a standard 6-week class. We have 6 hours of online learning, 8 hours of in-person classes, and then 2 hours of puppy interaction sessions. So that is in person or face-to-face learning. What does that add up to? About 16 hours of learning versus a 5-hour or 6-hour puppy class. Naturally, it's double the time. So again, it's going to be influenced in the cost. You've then got what support's available. Because this is something, again, we overlook. Is it just you come to puppy class, bish, bash, bosh, do your sits, off you pop? Or is it you have WhatsApp support, phone call support, you can ring up the trainer anytime you like? Because all of those things, again, may not be obvious on the face of it when you look at the price, but they may be incredibly valuable to you because you need that support. Like at Sunday afternoon when something's going wrong and you go, my God, what's happening here? You can pop it in the WhatsApp chat and your trainer will respond to you as soon as possible, rather than you having to wait all the way until next Saturday when in potentially that week you could be tearing your hair out. So what support is included? It's not just these hours, it could be so much more. Again, another thing to work out is, are you looking at, when you're comparing prices, are you looking at an independent business? Are you looking at a franchise? Because again, franchises will work differently to an independent company because they're not having to do the same behind the scenes work that an independent company are. Franchises often have better marketing budgets, etc., because they are all that is done for you simply, whereas independent people are going to have to do it themselves. And another point to work out is, are you looking at a hobby trainer versus a professional trainer? And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but I'm saying, what is the purpose of it? So for example, is a hobby trainer someone who just enjoys dog training and does it as a hobby on a Thursday evening in the village hall? Or is it someone who actually it's their full-time job? Because if it's their full-time job, naturally they're going to be charging a lot more than someone who is doing it for fun in the village hall. They may not be as good, they may be better, but that is going to look at the overheads. And obviously there is so much more overhead that you don't see that will be contributing to the cost of your classes. So for example, a qualified trainer would have invested years and lots of money into their own training, their qualifications, their business development, as I said before, their venue overheads, all of those things. And there are so many things you don't really realise that are all contributing to their costs. So naturally, again, those things are going to mean that they either have to put their prices up or they're going to be super cheap. So don't just look at how much is class. I'll go for the cheap £50 one versus the £1,000 puppy class training. Not that ours is £1,000 because that's really expensive. But which one is it? Why are they that expensive? And am I sure that I'm getting what I want and what is value for money? And the next question that we often get asked is, again, we kind of touched on it earlier, is how long does it take to train a puppy? Will my puppy training be complete in my 6-week course? And, this again, it's very much depends what lens you're looking at it. It depends, what your view is. What does trained mean to you? And what are your aspirations for your puppy? So if you're looking at just common puppy behaviours like the toilet training, chewing things they shouldn't, sleeping at night, being left alone, all of those things, yes, generally are going to improve with age. So by the end of the puppy class, you're probably going to be cracking those and feeling quite confident. But other skills like recall, loose lead walking, etc., will change depending on how old your puppy is. So the puppy class gives you a foundation to get started, but it's not going to necessarily help you through the adolescence where you'll see improvements and declines over time. So the consistency that is required through adolescence to help build consistent results in the future, that's not going to be achieved in puppy class, because it takes dogs up to 3 years to go through their adolescent phase. So obviously we're not going to be able to foresee what's going to happen in a year's time when we're training a 10-week-old puppy. So if you want the reliable adult behaviours like lead work, like recall, you're likely going to need to commit to more than just a 6-week puppy class and continue with training, whether that be through doing it yourself online, or by watching YouTube videos, or by actually going to a class and working with a professional trainer each week. So yes, some of the general puppy things are going to be covered and sorted in the 6 weeks, but some things aren't. And obviously, 6 weeks is a really short time. And we often think of it as a tick box exercise. We've done puppy class, done, trained puppy. Even if we don't think we need it, my advice is always to carry on training, especially in classes until they are at least 3, and more if you need it, and more if you enjoy it. But if you are continually each week training in a class environment up until they're 3, you're riding that adolescent storm with a trainer on tap. Every week you can say, this has happened this week, what do I do? Or why is this happening? And they are there to support you through those challenging ups and downs of adolescence and development and into an adult dog. And of course you can carry on going because it's fun, but they are there to support you. And proactive, it's the same with anything we talk about. Being proactive rather than reactive is so much better. A lot of people do puppy class, have a long gap, and then come back in a few years' time and go, it went wrong. Now my puppy's doing this, or my adult dog is doing this. And a lot of the things, not always, but could have been prevented, or at least made a little bit easier by carrying on with training when they were younger. So, how long is a piece of string? How long does it take to train a puppy? It's so dependent on what you want from your puppy, what your goals are, what you consider being trained, what your expectations are. But I would always say a dog is never fully trained, because they're always learning, developing and growing, and they're always potentially going to have new challenges, new problems, new emotions. So we are training all the time, whether we think we are or not. So this is, again, another question. And I think this question comes up a lot for people who've had dogs before. So for example, I've had 4 dogs now, 3 from puppyhood. Why is puppy training important? Do I actually need to bring my puppy to class? Because I've had dogs before. Is it actually worth it? And it's really valid, because often people, I have skill, obviously, I hope, to do my job. But I do still always bring my puppies to puppy class. And often I actually bring them to 2 different puppy classes, one with myself and one with my husband. And sometimes I go to somebody else's puppy class too, so that we're in a new environment rather than their familiar environment where they come to work with me. So even as a trainer, I still take my puppies to puppy classes, and I still take my adult dogs to classes. And the reason being is, obviously, yes, we have skill, but you can always learn something new. We're always able to learn something new. And actually, each puppy is going to be different from the last. And it's not always about training the person. Obviously, that is a big element, but it's also about providing opportunity for puppy. So you may, you only have a small opportunity when your puppy is at that young age to accept new things, to be socialised to the world around them. And it's a bit more forgiving when they're young. By the time they're, reaching adolescence, they've already informed and created associations and connections that are going to be much harder to change as they get older. So attending a puppy class in the beginning stages doesn't guarantee it, but it is likely to help you get your journey with your puppy off the best start. You're never going to get these puppy years back. They're going to be an adult dog a hell of a lot longer than they are a puppy. But the puppy in the adolescent phase really mould your young dog into the adult dog they're going to be. And I think they are an important factor to make sure you have a happy future together. Equally, obviously, there's so many things we can teach them at home. So you can teach your puppy to sit, you can teach recall in the garden, you can teach loose leaf walking in the garden. But when you come towards a problem, or something that doesn't quite go the same way as it should, as YouTube tells you, having that individual support from a trainer who has met your dog and seen what you're talking about can help you a lot more. And equally, classes provide that distraction. Yes, you can sit at home beautifully, you can rehaul across the garden, but in classes, you can do that with 6 other puppies in the area, which is simulating a real life environment to practice for the future. And as I said, a good trainer isn't just going to see you for an hour a week. They're going to provide all that extra training support, tips, advice, emotional support, which is so needed. So we've often been likened to like a puppy midwife or health visitors, providing that support in the first few months to help people feel a little bit more confident and know how to handle the lack of sleep and the bouncy puppy era, which it can be, and it is really overwhelming. Even for people who've had puppies multiple times before, you still go, I'd forgotten how much hard work a puppy was. And the last question for today, how much time should I spend actually training my puppy every day? Because I think that's a really valid question, because we tend to think that, maybe we go to class for an hour a week, we train our puppy and we don't have to do it anymore. But training happens all the time. Every interaction, every encounter you're having with your dog, every experience they're having is a learning experience. So when we actually are purposefully training, so teaching a new skill, I would suggest little and often is really important. So a couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there. We wouldn't practice recall for an hour, but we'd practice it for 3 or 4 minutes and then let our puppy sleep for a bit and then practice something else a little bit later, because puppies do need a lot of sleep. Plenty of rest to help them grow physically, emotionally, and also to help them stay quite calm. The more sleep they get, the more calm they're likely to be. So a minute or 2, 3, 4, 5 is maximum for young puppies. And obviously it helps them to stay focused, but it helps them to avoid getting overexcited and tired. This week I've been filming with some new puppies who are like all 10, 11, I think they're about 11, 12 weeks old, for our online portal. And, I'd said, come for an hour. In theory, that sounded great. I was like, an hour, it's like puppy class. But because I was intensely training these puppies on camera, 30 minutes, they were done. Absolutely done. So we're going to have to do more sessions. But even I forgot how tired puppies get. So a couple of minutes training here and there is going to be so much more valuable to you than having an hour of training. And obviously, you need to train in different locations as well. A little bit here, a little bit there. But puppies are learning, all dogs are learning skills every single minute of every day. So every encounter you have is a learning experience. So consider that when you are, anything you do, interacting with them in any way, you're teaching them something. But those focused training sessions should only be a few minutes. It makes it a little bit more manageable, so you can fit it in like snippets throughout the day. When you're boiling the kettle, when you're finishing a TV program, when you're waking up in the morning, or between your cups of tea, or whatever. There are snippets of time that are going to be more important. Now, obviously, we run puppy training, and we often get asked, what makes us different? Why should I book you? Because obviously, we are a lot more expensive than majority of puppy offerings locally. And that is because, in my opinion, we tick a lot of boxes. So all the things we've talked about today, if you have heard of us before and have gone, I wanted to go there, but they're really expensive, I'm actually going to the cheap one down the road. Absolutely your prerogative. And you may be having a wicked experience there. But some of the reasons that we are more expensive, okay? In case you're wondering, if you are a new puppy owner who's seen our service and gone, but then gone, nah, that's expensive. We offer things slightly different. So as I said earlier, we have 3 elements to our puppy program. It's not just classes. You have between 5 and 6 hours of online learning from the moment you book puppy class, which means you have that support instantly. We talk about how to set up your house, how to bring them home that first day, toilet training, sleeping at night, puppy biting, all of those things. You've then got your 8 weeks of in-person training classes. Keep puppy classes small. There's only going to be maximum of 6 other puppies in your class, so it's super small. You get a lot of attention. You also get those puppy interaction sessions, which are so valuable for practicing social interaction, building puppies' confidence, sometimes encouraging them to be a little bit calmer around other dogs, and then learning how to actually interact. Those 3 elements mean you're supported not just for a few weeks, but up to 3 months which is a really long time. So you've got all of that support. You've then got WhatsApp groups, our weekly calls, our Facebook group, loads and loads of different elements of support. But we, again, are a professional business. We are not a hobby trainer or a one-man band. We have a venue. We have a lot of overheads. We have staff. You get a lot of different perspective because each one of our team will have a slightly different element or experience to add in and say, well, when my puppy was doing what your puppy is doing, I did this. So you've got multiple trainers all able to support you depending on what experience you're having. And we are likely, one of us is likely to have gone through it at some point. So you're getting a really comprehensive service that does make us a little bit different from your average puppy or training school. So hopefully that has answered lots of questions about puppy class and those common things that we get asked, and hopefully it's helped you to think about puppy training, what you may need, what you may be looking for, what to look for when you're picking a puppy class, and equally, do I even need puppy training? If there's any questions I haven't answered, please do drop me a message, debbie@potterpaws.co.uk, and I will happily answer those. Or head over into our Facebook group. The link is in the description of the podcast episode. Head over into that group. It's free to join it. All of our community are there, or a good proportion, and you can ask any questions that you have, and we will happily answer them for you if we can, if it's something that we can answer over the internet, or at least provide some guidance if we can't. Hopefully, say you found this useful, and if you do have a puppy and you've got any questions, get in touch. If you know someone getting a puppy, please do share this episode with them, and hopefully it will be useful for them in choosing a puppy class. And I can't wait to catch up with you all next week. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you all soon. Thank you for listening to The Dynamic Dog Owner with me, Debbie Potter. See you next time.